Greetings and salutations, family. It is me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to the Louisiana All American Sports Network, Bel Air at Broadmoor. Come Friday night, look out for that. Shout out to M Vision Photography and Video. And shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. Of course, this is episode 10, season 1 of the Tailgate Party. In this particular episode of the Tailgate Party, I'm going to talk about, the way Southern University fired head coach Terrence Graves. I'm going to talk about my list of 7 candidates that I would prefer Southern University hire. And not only that, but just structural and systemic issues when it comes to hiring head coaches at Southern University. And then give you my take and my perspective in terms of the preview of the game on Saturday afternoon, A.W. Monk Stadium, P. Richardson Field, as the Southern University Jaguars host the Prairie View. Not got me saying Prairie View, God dog it. The FAMU Rattlers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. I plan on being here for a good time, not a long time. We getting ready to crank it up. Sit back and relax, you dig? Okay. Let's see who we got in the chat. James Franklin, salute to you. He said, "Hey, Coach, would we consider Coach Ogeron?" Truthfully speaking, I doubt it. The reason being is because the lack of institutional control issues he had at LSU. I mean, if Southern didn't want Art Browse, because, when I did the list last week, you know, salute to my brother Jay Good. We talked about behind the scenes, Art Browse and Coach O. Grambling didn't even want Coach Art Browse to be the offensive coordinator for Hugh Jackson. I think Southern kind of shares the same sentiments. So if you had a lot of bad pub or publicity, I don't think Southern would touch him. I think that's part of the reason why somebody like Ed Reed, like the way he handled the whole Bethune-Cookman situation, I don't think Southern would touch him with a 10-foot pole, in my personal opinion. James Franklin said, if not, I see a lot of advocating for Coach Landry Williams. I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen probably about, at this point, maybe about a dozen different lists. And, man, you got names from Marsha Falk, Kevin Falk, KJ Black, like Teddy Bridgewater, Quinn Gray. I'm not going to lie. Some of these coaches, I never even heard of, you know what I'm saying? So, it is what it is. Blackwater Bayou, salute coach and chat, man. Salute to the brother Blackwater Bayou. Got to meet him at the home and season opener. Well, the home season opener. P. Richardson class against Alabama State, him and his pops. Man, salute to him and Pops. Pops been going to Southern University game for over 60 years. And for him to come all the way from Houston, Texas to watch Southern play like some scrubs, man, hey. Ladarius Arsenault, salute to you. He put Coach Broderick Fobbs. Nah, I wouldn't want him. I think he did a good job at Grambling in the beginning, but eventually things went left. He did good at Grambling. I'm not gonna knock him, but nah, I'm tired of all these recycled SWAT coaches. You know what I'm saying? So, down south 225. Salute to you. He put Ed Reed. That would be a hard no for me. Like I was saying earlier, based on the way he handled the whole fiasco with Bethune-Cookman, I wouldn't want him. And salute to my brother Big Joe Town, Mr. Old Hillside, standing on LDPC business. This is always a back and forth conversation that he and I have. We done had this debate on a few occasions. His perspective is he's an NFL Hall of Famer, an NFL legend. That's cool. And he was saying, I wasn't saying Bethune-Cookman was right in terms of the facilities being, mediocre and not being clean and being filthy and things of that nature. But I think he could have handled it a better way. A lot of issues he had in terms of just, the facilities not being clean. To a certain degree, I'm sure P. Richardson had a lot of those same concerns when he first came to Southern in terms of the quality of the facilities and some of the facilities not being up to par from cleanliness standpoint. But at the same token, like for you to go on social media and blast your employer and say, hey, Coach Prime said this and Coach Prime said that. Like, man, hey, it makes you look like you're not fit to be a leader of young men in terms of the way you carry yourself from a professionalism standpoint. So I think not only did he rub a lot of HBCUs the wrong way, but a lot of FCS programs that probably had interest in him, I don't think they were no longer interested in him after that. And truthfully speaking, I'm not saying he never going to get a head coaching job, but I think he turned a lot of people off. Salute to your boy, Jay. He said, let's go get Marsha Falk, bring some hype back to the program. I don't think Marsha Falk would be a terrible idea, but truthfully speaking, at this point, I want somebody that has a proven track record of being a good head coach, for one, and second of all, has a proven track record of being a program builder, and lastly, I want somebody that's going to be at Southern for the next 15 years, not for the next year and a half, next 2 years. So that's my opinion on that. Salute to the family, relaxing, calm rain. He said, salute, coach, chat, Jaguar Nation, and HBCU family. Salute to you. Salute the motivation to be a millionaire. He said, salute, Coach 67, chat, Jaguar Nation, and HBCU family. He said, Joe Taylor from West Georgia would be the perfect choice. Hey, I'm gonna touch on him. I mean, I think that's a very interesting, unique candidate. I think for the most part, I think he checks all the boxes. I think he's a little bit outside the box. Honestly, I think he's a perfect candidate, perfect choice. I agree with you. I'm going to address that when I touch on the list. Your boy J, salute, coach. Go Jags. Yes, sir. Salute to Kendrick Wicker. He said recycle coaches come with experience. If Oliver or Barry get hired, that falls under recycle coaches. Well, I understand what you're saying. When I say recycle SWAC coaches, I'm talking about guys like Eric Dooley, uh, guys like Terrence Graves. I'm talking about, first of all, current guys that's outside the SWAC for one, and second of all, I'm talking about somebody that has not been a SWAC lifer. So Kendrick Wicker, I think Trey Oliver is the perfect candidate, in my personal opinion. He's at the top of my wish list. But I think in this context, I can't recall Trey Oliver being the head coach in the SWAC. So when we talk about recycle SWAC coaches, I'm talking about names like I say, like Eric Dooley. Uh, who else? Eric Dooley definitely come out. I'm not saying Southern will go back to Dooley. I'm talking about somebody that's been all over the SWAC as a head coach. Really, to a certain degree, I'm not saying Fred McNair is not a bad head coach. I think it would have been interesting to see what he would have done had he got the job instead of Terrence Graves. But it was an issue of timing in terms of him putting Alcorn State up against Texas Southern in terms of having that duel for, who's going to be, his next employer in terms of trying to get them in basically create a bidding war between those two schools. And he kind of overplayed his hand, and he had to end up being a position coach. But at the end of the day, from my perspective and point of view, in terms of context, yeah, he's been an assistant coach at Southern, but I wouldn't consider him a recycled SWAC coach. When I use it in this context, I'm talking about maybe if you just look at former Southern coaches like Dawson Odoms, like, even though I think he did well at the program, some of guys like him, guys like Eric Dooley, guys like Broderick Fobbs, those kind of guys is what I'm talking about. So, first let me address Saturday night. First of all, homecoming was great. Outside of the game and the shooting, those were like the real negatives. Of course, they had a shooting on campus during the game. So, a lot, and somebody mentioned this in the comment section. Like, basically the lady talking about yeah, you got all these lights and fireworks and smoke and all that. For them to come out there and play, they're gonna come out here and play like some scrubs. It was, somebody was asking, was that a Southern fan? I hope it wasn't. Actually, she was a Southern fan. She sat next to me initially, but she bought tickets on the row next to me and the row behind me. So she she was voicing her displeasure. So yeah, she definitely was a Southern fan. But the reason why I bring her up is because basically her son left the game and he was, out and about, and evidently, I guess she got word of the shooting, and she was highly agitated at him. She was like, basically, it's gonna be your last game because out there, you know, around campus during the game, you got all these youngsters. It's too dangerous because I hate that these type of incidents kind of spoil and ruin homecoming, not just in Southern but HBCUs across the country. And the thing about it is, when you get so many people in one location like that, for the most part, most of these people, the vast majority of them, the overwhelming majority of them, they come to for a good time. But once you get youngsters, especially in Baton Rouge, greater Baton Rouge area, you got people from all over, from Scotlandville, from Easy Town, Ghost Town, Brookstown, Third World, Mall City, Glen Oaks, from all over the place. Like, something is bound to happen. And just like last year, like the incident before we went to the stadium with the little youngsters, they had another incident. So it's unfortunate you have these type of incidents, but they had a heavy police presence. So it kind of is what it is. I mean, you really can't prevent that with that amount of people. So that was a downside to homecoming. Definitely, Southern losing the way they lost to Prairie View. That was a downside. But other than that, and of course, one thing, I don't think it went viral this year the way it went viral last year. Anytime Crimson Cure talked about it on her channel, from the standpoint of the way the young ladies were dressed. Of course, they were dressed like that again this year. But the fact that I think it rained off and on, like leading up to kickoff. Because somebody pointed this out in the comment section too. Like, the stadium looked empty. No, I'm not gonna lie, it was a point in the game where the stadium was like almost full of capacity. But the issue was, since it was raining off and on, once it started raining, people left, you know, out the stadium. They went under the stadium because they weren't trying to get wet. Because initially when it started raining, I'm like, oh, don't tell me something happened on the on the west side. No, it started raining on the west side first, and it kind of gradually, like, it came across the field, and then you could see people on both sides running for cover because they didn't want to get wet. So that was the reason why the stadium wasn't packed, but it really was packed in terms of, once the rain stopped, the sun came out, and that's the crazy thing about it. The weather was so inconsistent in terms of, it would be pouring down raining, and then it would stop, and then it would get hot and muggy and humid, and the sun started shining. That happened a couple times. You know what I'm saying? So, you know that's addressing homecoming, but I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't no surprise that they actually pulled the trigger and fired Terrence Graves because, like, the day of homecoming, like, a handful of people told me. And I think for the most part, I think all these people are kind of connected to Tony Clayton. Salute and shout out to him. And one person told me this in Tony Clayton Championship Square, Championship Plaza. Like, hey, like, if they lose tonight, like, Terrence Graves is done. So multiple people told me that. Then a few people told me, like, after the loss, they was like, oh, he's gonna be fired tonight. And I'm like, what? Like, really? Like, that's crazy, right? So, of course, after the game, salute to my brother Jay Good. In the group chat, he sent me that Roman Banks got, he did press conference, whatever, after the game. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a good sign by no stretch of the imagination. And then I'm like, all right, well, they probably going to give him the X. So, Sunday passed, Monday come through, and like I said, the students were off, the faculty and staff wasn't. And, like, it was parent teacher conferences, but since I'm an administrator now, I didn't have to meet with any parents. And somebody sent it to me, or basically the coaches, the coaches Zoom call, and I see him on there, and I'm like, well, maybe they decide to keep him for the rest of the season, And of course, me and Jay Good was basically saying how, getting rid of a coach early and bringing in a new head coach in a timely manner is imperative to recruit. So I'm like, yeah, that's not a good look if they're gonna keep him the rest of the season. And then they were saying his buyout was like $70K, and it's $70K if they let him go after the first of the year. And I'm like, yeah, that's not good either. Then, he did the coaches show, and then they fire him. And I'm like, bro, this is trash. Like, you gonna let this man work a whole day, and then at the end of the work day, you gonna fire him? Like, nah, bro, look, if you're gonna fire me, let me go first thing that morning, because the same thing happened to me. I don't work essentially a whole work day, and then basically they bring me in. Hey, coach, we need to talk to you. Let me go at the end of the day. Nah, bro, you want to get rid of me? Don't let me work no whole doggone work day, and then fire me at the end of the day. Practically at the end of the day, fire me first thing that morning. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it is what it is. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what it is when it comes to Southern University administration. In terms of, they do a bad job when it comes to like hiring and firing. The way they fired Terrence Graves was trash. I mean, don't get me wrong. By all accounts I hear, he's a very nice guy. But at the end of the day, if you're gonna be the head coach of Southern, like, we need results, and you got to get the job done. And clearly, he didn't get the job done. But I wish him well. You know, I don't wish I don't wish for no one to lose their job. But at the same token, he wasn't getting the job done. So I wish him well. I hope he lands on his feet. I hope everything works in his favor, you know, in terms of his future endeavors. And not only that, but I didn't like the way they hired like Eric Dooley prior to that. Like, you know, he was the head coach at PV, and they lost in the SWAC championship game in Jackson State. And where they hired him from another SWAC school, I thought that was like Bush League also. So I think administration at Southern, they need to do a better job in terms of the way they hire and fire coaches, in my personal opinion. And that kind of leads me to my next point in terms of like getting rid of Roma Banks. I kind of been a proponent of that. But recently, just kind of talking to people behind the scenes. And, of course, some of these people, they watch other content of other content creators. And, salute to all the content creators in the HBCU football space. But for the most part, I think a lot of these people looking at other people's content. But some of these people just have inside intel. And they basically saying, like, yeah, Dooley was a Roma Banks hire. However, when it came to Terrence Graves, like, Terrence Graves wasn't the guy he wanted. And in addition to that, basically, the board pretty much, Terrence Graves was a trustees, board of directors hired. Essentially, the board hired him, even though Roma Banks hasn't basically come out and said, like, hey, I didn't even want him to begin with. Like, the board wanted this guy. He never came out and said that. I think Roma Banks does a good job in terms of the way he moves politically. Like, he clearly he's done this for some years, so he knows what he's doing. I give him that. But overall, from a structural standpoint, I'm gonna just use it like this. All right, looking at Southern and FAMU and Alcorn and Grambling, I think the issues they're having, it's not just football issues. I think the byproduct you see from these institutions on the field is more a reflection of the way their program is run at this point. Whereas on the flip side, looking at Jackson State, I think it's more of a reflection of the way Ashley Robinson is doing a great job in terms of being an athletic director. So at the end of the day, the product you see on the field it's not just a football issue. I think the end result is a byproduct of the way these institutions are run from a administrative standpoint, and it starts from the not just the athletic director on down, but from the board on down. And at the end of the day, I think that's the reason why Southern is struggling the way it is in terms of the football program. It's not just a reflection of, Terrence Graves, even though it was a byproduct of his poor coaching. Because I'm not gonna lie, looking at Eric Dooley versus Terrence Graves, Eric Dooley could coach. I mean, Eric Dooley could recruit, but he couldn't coach. To keep it real with you, what I saw this season and what I'm seeing now from Southern, Terrence Graves couldn't recruit nor coach. So at least when it came to Eric Dooley, he couldn't evaluate nor develop quarterback talent. However, he could clearly recruit. No two ways about it, from my personal opinion. But looking at Terrence Graves, he couldn't recruit, nor could he coach. From a X and O standpoint, in terms of strategy, making adjustments, uh, decision making, play calling, clock management, game management. He's struggling in all those areas, in my personal opinion. So, like, Eric Dooley didn't have none of those traits either, but at least he could recruit. So at the end of the day, in terms of Southern, from a football program perspective, looking at Jackson State, like, they're built on a solid foundation. So even after Deion Sanders left, and Coach T.C. Taylor picked up what he had and he kept running on. Whereas if you look at FAMU, once Willie Simmons left and James Cozy took over, it pretty much crumbled. And the same thing with Southern. Like, so Jackson State compared to FAMU, Southern, Alcorn, Grambling, like, they're built on a solid foundation, whereas, Southern is built on sand. And I think it's not just a reflection of Roma Banks and Terrence Graves, but I think it's the board on down. So this even above Roma Banks. So, I kept saying, I'm not gonna lie, I was a huge proponent of them getting rid of Roma Banks too. But I think it's more of a board issue from the standpoint of it's a lot of politics, there's a lot of favoritism, there's a lot of nepotism, there's a lot of good old boy network, there's a lot of, hey, he cool with me, he ain't good with me, so we won't hire him. Look, hey, Southern needs to move away from the way they do business, the way they conduct these coaching searches. And I'm talking about going all the way back to Stump Mitchell. Because truthfully speaking, of course they did an excellent job in terms of bringing Pete Richardson in. However, when it came to Stump Mitchell, that was trash. I think they just kind of stumbled into Dawson Odoms. Jason Rollins was trash. Eric Dooley was trash. Terrence Graves was trash. So the way they hired all of these coaches, the last one that they got right from the outset was Pete Richardson. And they just stumbled into Dawson Odoms. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the way they hire coaches, the way they evaluate, the way they go through the whole coaching process, whether it's coming up with a search committee, them just decide, hey, this is who we want. Southern University is an institution. They need to do a better job. Get away from this good old boy network. Get away from all the politics and the nepotism and the favoritism. And hey, he my frat brother. Hey, you scratch my back, I'm gonna scratch your back. And it's not just Southern issue. A lot of HBCUs operate in this manner when it comes to the hiring process. And at the end of the day, I think they need to get away from that. So I'm not even gonna lie. I'm cool with them keeping Roman Banks, but they need to get away from the way they hiring head football coaches, because I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. It's trash in my personal opinion. So, not only do as a fan base, we need to have all this smoke for Roman Banks, but we need to have all this smoke for the board. The board, y'all need to get off y'all behind and do a better job and quit, you know, playing politics and favoritism and nepotism and the good old boy network. And hey, that's my partner. Look, from a coaching standpoint, if I had to hire a head coach, I mean, don't get me wrong, personal relationships always gonna factor into this because there's this phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's a real thing. That's why that's a phrase. But at the end of the day, if somebody told me, hey coach, we need a head football coach for a middle school, a head football coach and a head basketball coach. We're gonna make you the athletic director, whatever. I'm not just gonna hire my partner because he's my partner. If I know my partner gonna do a trash job in terms of trying to get players to play for the team, and in addition to that, from an X's and O's standpoint, uh, he's trash from a strategy standpoint. He don't make no adjustments. I'm not gonna hire him just because he's my partner. And even when it came to Terrence Graves, that's the reason why he ended up getting Mark Frederick. Look, bro, at the end of the day, I'm a competitor. I want to win. I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the players and the program. I'm not just going to hire this person because that's my partner. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I think Southern University needs to do a better job in that regard. So that's why the list that I've comprised, I'm not going to lie, at this point, there's so many lists out there floating around. I'm not going to lie, like I said, I've seen like a dozen of them. And before I actually get to my list, I just kind of want like go over like some of the names people talking about. Of course, I talked about Jabbar Jaluk. Right now, he the interim head coach at the University of Florida. Of course, Marshall Falk, Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Bridgewater, starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Terenzo Quinn for Jackson State. Matt Leon in North Carolina Central, KJ Black, Atlanta Falcons, Teddy Keaton from Clark, Atlanta. I already talked about Coach Ed Ogeron, former head coach at LSU. I don't think his lack of institutional control and all the bad pub he got being the head coach at LSU, I don't think they're going to touch him with a 10-foot pole. The same issue with Art Browse. Kevin Sumlin, the tight ends coach at Maryland. Of course, essentially, he's the equivalent to Fred McNair. The only difference is he's on a FBS level as opposed to the FCS HBCU level. Kevin Falk, who's right now working with Elite Training Academy in terms of being a running backs coach, and of course David Johnson, Florida State University. So these are some names that have kind of been thrown around. And I'm not gonna lie, at this point, the next head coach for Southern, I want a guy that's already a proven head coach, for one. Second of all, I want a guy that is a proven program builder and a guy that already is having or has had success. And in addition to that, like I said earlier, I don't want swag retreads in terms of, and when I say swag retreads, I'm gonna say this again. I don't consider some of the guys I'm gonna have on this list to be a swag retread. If you a head coach outside of the SWAC, and you've been an assistant coach in the SWAC, but you end up getting a head coaching job outside the SWAC, and you thrive and you're doing well and you're successful, yeah, that's the kind of guy I want. I'm not talking about a guy that's been a head coach in the SWAC. Is a SWAC lifer, basically, to say the least. Project Fives was the name they brought up earlier. I think he did a good job at Grambling when he had him rolling. No, I don't want Project Five. I would want Eric Dooley, Terrence Graves. Those guys prior to coming to Southern, essentially, it was like SWAC lifers, in my personal opinion. So, and not only that, but I don't want all of these guys that played for Pete Richardson that were attached to Pete Richardson in terms of either they played for him or they were assistant coaches under him. Look, we need to do away with this. Hey, you played for Pete Richardson, you coach for Pete Richardson. I want you. Nah, I don't want them kind of guys. So I'm getting ready to go over my list real quick. Your boy just say, I do think it's embarrassing to have a fireworks show while getting blown out, LOL. Man, look, I'll say this literally at every game. Is a guy that has been a middle school head football and head basketball coach for years. I'm a competitor. I want to win. It pisses me off. Y'all don't know to the extent it pisses me off for you to be losing to Alabama State 23-7 going into the fourth quarter, and you got a goddamn fireworks and light show. You getting the brakes beat off you by Jackson State. You firing up the other team. You got a fireworks show and a light show. You losing at homecoming against Prairie View, and you got a fireworks show and a light show. If you are not winning going into the fourth quarter, you should not be having a damn light show and a damn fireworks show. I am sorry. It may be a spectacle. The kids may love it, but as a competitive guy, I absolutely hate it when you get the brakes beat off of you to start the fourth quarter and you got a goddamn fireworks show and a light show. It pisses me off to no extent. And not only that, all it does is give life and juice to the opposing team. Man, when they had that light show and the fireworks show, man, Alabama State got so hyped up going into the fourth quarter. I'm like, man, they're already kicking y'all head in, and y'all having this. Man, look, bro. To me, the optics of it just looks bad. Black, salute the Black. He said, I wouldn't be if we got Matt Leone or Joe Taylor. I'm gonna get into the list, but I'm gonna keep it a buck. I know some people gonna be like, man, coach, I don't like that, but I am for hiring a white head coach at Southern. I am sorry. I'm unapologetic. I'm not sorry, in fact. No disrespect to Matt Leone. I think at some point he's gonna make a good head coach. I mean, there's already a limited amount of black head coaches in the NFL. There's only a limited amount of black head coaches on the FBS level and the FCS level in terms of just head coaching job for black head coaches. I don't want Matt Leone to be the head coach at Southern, just like I wouldn't have wanted Mark Orlando to be the head coach at Southern. Y'all can say I'm wrong, I'm racist, whatever you want. I'm not for it. So I'm not saying he wouldn't be a good hire. No, I don't want it. Your boy Jay said the AD speaking to the media after a loss pretty much sealed his fate. They should have just hired him that night to save the awkwardness. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like going back to the way they hired Eric Dooley, I thought it was Bush League. And the way they handled this whole Terrence Graves firing, I thought that was Bush League also, in my personal opinion. Your boy Jay said apparently Banks said they had 2 meetings, and the second meeting was the nail in the coffin. All right. Man, salute to my brother, Desmond Allen. He said, my big dog, Coach 67. Salute to you, fam. James Franklin said Graves also had no knowledge of the coaches for him to use Dooley's staff. That was just lazy and showed he was never prepared to be a head coach. And I'm not gonna lie, truthfully speaking, from what I understood, he couldn't bring in his own staff. I could be wrong, but the way the board moved, I wouldn't be surprised if the board told him, hey, just keep Eric Dooley's staff. Like you said, maybe he wasn't prepared. But either way, that whole scenario, it did look Bush League also. But I don't think he was able to pick his own staff, if you ask me, you know. And Desmond Allen, he kind of confirmed. He said, yeah, administration hired Graves, not Banks. I agree, yeah. Best to do it, Seven. Salute to you. He said, mom and pop operation. Big facts. The way they running stuff is, it looks real Bush League, you know what I'm saying? Your boy Jay said Marshall Falk would have been our coach in 2021 if that whole NFL Network allegation didn't happen. Yeah, I kind of heard that from multiple people too, but nobody has been able to categorically confirm or deny that. But I've heard that from multiple sources. But the people that I talk to that's kind of closer, like people like Tony Clayton, others like administrators or whoever, like in every instance, they've kind of been able to confirm things or deny things. Nobody has been able to confirm nor deny that, but I've heard that from multiple sources. You know, your boy Jay said one of the board members approved Graves for the job because he was at Southern Lab. Our board is clueless. Yeah, big facts. That's why I see. I'm not gonna lie. The whole, he was at Southern Lab, and not only that, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. Jaguar Nation, first and foremost, above everything, we want to win. And when I say win, I'm not just talking about winning the SWAC West. I'm not just talking about winning the SWAC championship. I'm talking about winning the Celebration Bowl. But at the same token, the fan base does want you to be able to recruit Southern Lab well. They want you to be able to recruit Scotlandville well. They want you to be able to recruit the greater Baton Rouge area. They want you to be able to recruit the I-10 corridor from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. They want you to be able to recruit the state of Louisiana. And they want you to be able to recruit the region and really nationally. But more than anything, they want you to get like elite level players from these programs. You know what I'm saying? If you get a quarterback from Scotlandville High School, no disrespect to ZT Set, whether it's a evaluation issue, a development issue, I think it's more development than evaluation. But ZT Set, he don't compare to some of the dogs that Southern had over the years from Scotlandville. Even if you look at, some of the Southern Lab players, like Darren Morris. I mean, he is a Southern Lab product, but he's not an elite level player that can't like some of the players from Southern Lab or the past. So at the end of the day, it's not a knock on these players that I'm naming. I think from a development standpoint, they haven't really, been developed and nurtured like players of the past. And not only that, I'm gonna just kind of be honest. If I kind of had to make a comparable like player to Darren Morris, just to kind of use an example, Darren Morris is Southern essentially. I don't care what nobody say. I think at this point, I think he might not be the most talented Southern University wide receiver, but in my personal opinion, he's clearly the number one wide receiver. Essentially, that'll be the equivalent to maybe somebody like Altrivian Joe Barry. I felt like Altrivian Joe Barry was a good number 3, 4 receiver, but I don't think he would have been a legit number 1. Mike Hayes was a number 1. Devin Lewis was a number 2, and eventually number 1. Altrivian Joe Barry wouldn't have been a number good. He wouldn't have been a good number 1 receiver, and I think essentially that's the equivalent what Darren Morris is at this point. Salute the Fierce. He said a black head coach. Period. Black coaches have a hard time, and we do not need to go to any other group. I agree with you 100%. No disrespect to Matt Leone. I don't want no white head coach at Southern. Point blank, bottom line, period. I don't care what nobody say. Black said, from what I heard, Graves knew he was going to get fired if he lost that game. And it seemed, no, if he lost that game. He said, so if he lost that game, he knew he was going to get fired. And it still seemed like he still didn't try to win. No, I'm not going to lie. I think he actually trying. I don't think the team is that good, and I don't think he's that good a coach. Fierce, salute the Fierce. He said the board is keeping Southern from moving forward. Get rid of the AD and the board. I'm not going to lie. Based on everything I'm hearing about the board, at this point, I'm cool with them keeping Roman Bates. But at the same token, the board, man, look, the board is screwing up. Point blank, bottom line, period. The board can't keep moving the way they're moving. So the board need to get their stuff together. And I'm going to get my list straight in a minute. Your boy Jay said we should be beating McNeese and Northwestern yearly. Hiring SWAC rejects won't get it done. I agree. I'm tired of all these SWAC rejects and all of these SWAC retreads. It is what it is. Fear say surprise. I am a lady, graduate of SU from way back, so we do not need to go backwards. I love your show and we'll continue to support you. Man, I appreciate your fears. Peace and blessings to you. And let me give you my real quick list, real quick. And your boy G kept bringing up Marshall Falk. I think had we hired Marshall Falk when we did, I think he would have been a good hire. But at this point, I want a proven head coach. One, two, I want a proven program builder. And not only that, I want somebody that could be at Southern for the next 15 years. So, and not only that, but I don't want people just I don't want a guy to be the next head coach just because he played for Coach Pete Richardson, just because he coached under Coach Pete Richardson, and just because he, a swag retread like an Eric Dooley. I don't want a guy like that. So that would X out Jabbar Jalou. No disrespect to him, but I don't want anybody associated with Pete Richardson. That kind of X's out Marshall Falk. I'm not saying Marshall Falk wouldn't be a good head coach, but at this point, he's an unproven entity. Being an NFL legend and an NFL Hall of Famer does not guarantee you that you're going to be a good head coach. And, it is what it is. Teddy Bridgewater, I think he would be uh, a great head coach. But to me, I think he kind of has FAMU written all over him to me. Terenzo Quinn, I think he's an excellent assistant coach. We don't know if he would be a great head coach yet. Like I said, no to Matt Leone. I think KJ Black, I think he would be a shot in the dark. I wouldn't be opposed to Teddy Keaton from Clark, Atlanta. Based on what I said earlier, I don't think Southern will go for Coach O nor Art Browse. I don't think Kevin Sumlin will be a bad hire, but based on what I heard about him in terms of his personality, from what I heard of him, I don't think he would fit with Jaguar Nation. And in addition to that, I think if he did have success at Southern, he just would use it as a stepping stone of Power 5 PWI. So I'm off on him. I don't think Kevin Falk would be a bad hire either. However, being a running backs coach for Elite Training Academy, I think, he's from Karen Crow. He went to LSU. He played for the New England Patriots. I think he would be able to recruit Louisiana well, but again, he's not a proven head coach. So, and lastly, David Johnson, Florida State. No. I mean, again, I think he could be a good head coach. I mean, he's a heck of a recruiter. He would be able to recruit Louisiana, but I don't know if he would be a proven coach. So, with all of my lists, I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. Ron Dickerson Jr. from Benedict College. I think he would do a good job. I think he would do an excellent job at Southern. I think he would be a great candidate to be Southern University's head coach. Next, and I said it was a list of 7. I scratched off Marshall Falk because he's not a proven guy. Nothing against him. I think he would be. He's an unproven commodity at this point. Next, number 5, I'm gonna go with Dr. Alvin Parker from Virginia Union. He another one. I think he would be an excellent head coach at Southern. The number 4 spot, I'm gonna go with Quinn Gray, Albany State. I'm not gonna lie. I think he would be another one. I think he would be an excellent head coach at Southern. This is the thing with Quinn Gray. I don't know if James Cozy gonna actually get fired at FAMU. It's hard to fire James Cozy if you FAMU without having an athletic director. To me, that makes no sense. That would be stupid. But if I'm FAMU, I'm gonna be honest with you. Quinn Gray is my number 1 candidate. He'll be the person I will pursue with everything. So if I'm FAMU, Quinn Gray would be my number 1 candidate. He would be the person I would be chomping at the bit to bring in at FAMU. So FAMU, he should be at the top of your list. Next, this name has been circling around lately, and a lot of people think he should be the next head coach at Southern. Because I'm not gonna lie, the top 2 guys, I don't think Southern going to be able to get either one of them two guys from their respective institutions. Joe Taylor from the University of West Georgia, I think he should be the next head coach at Southern. Uh, a lot of people have been talking about him lately. So I think a few of the content creators in the space has been talking about him. I think that's the reason why so many people are talking about him. And I think he would be the perfect candidate to be the next head coach of Southern. I think the one thing I really didn't take into consideration is from a monetary standpoint, both Eric Dooley and Terrence Graves was getting more than what he's currently getting. And the fact that, he's building the program, I think he would be the perfect candidate. He would be the guy I would hire. Then at the number 2 spot, Chennis Berry. Truthfully speaking, I don't think you're going to get Chennis Berry from South Carolina State. I think if you'd have hired him right out the gate, you could have got him. But I think at this point, I think it's a foregone conclusion. I don't think he coming to Southern. And, of course, my number 1 candidate would be Trey Oliver. Again, I don't think he's leaving North Carolina Central to come to Southern. So at the end of the day, that's my list of 6. And truthfully speaking, I think Joe Taylor is the perfect candidate to be the next head coach at Southern. He would be the guy I would want. Let me go back to the chat before I break down what I would do if I'm Southern against FAMU. Black say, from what I heard, Graves knew. Oh, I read that already. Fierce, yeah, I read Fierce already. Salute to Fierce. Your boy JC, we should be beating McNeese and Northwestern yearly. Hiring swag rejects won't get it done. Yeah, I read that already. Fierce say surprise. I read that. Your boy JC Banks said we are having a search firm and have more money to do more of a national search, so he has no excuse. Well, I'm glad they're hiring a search firm, but I'm not gonna lie, I think Joe Taylor is the perfect candidate to be Southern University next head coach. Your boy JC wasn't Graves the DC at Southern in the early 2000s, and the defense was trash. How the hell he got hired here? Hey, Blackwater Bayou brought up the same exact point. Blackwater Bayou brought up the same point. And truthfully speaking, he brought this up. And that's an accurate assessment. But like y'all said, he had ties to Southern Lab in terms of he was at Southern Lab at one point. And in addition to that, clearly, I think he had, from what I'm understanding, he had a relationship with somebody on the board. And essentially, that's what it came down to, the good old boy network. And that's how he got hired. Cornell Green, salute to you. He said, I saw someone throw out the name of Felton Higgins, head coach of Kentucky State. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. That's another one. Somebody that I know that goes to my church. Someone that goes to my church is currently playing at Kentucky State. He went to Ascension Catholic High School. And I'm not going to lie, Felton Higgins, clearly he did an excellent job recruiting Louisiana, to get a player from Ascension Catholic that wasn't on a lot of teams' radar, to get him to Kentucky State and have him playing right now. That goes to show you that he recruited Louisiana well. He's recruited Louisiana well. So truthfully speaking, I'm not going to lie. I would accept Felton Higgins from Kentucky State too. I think that would be a good choice in my personal opinion. Kendrick Wicker said your boy Jay said they should finish the search around Bayou Classic before the portal closes and have time to recruit. Yeah, that's another thing too. That's a good thing. I mean, Jay Good pointed this out. Like, you gotta have, recruiting. Who's the head coach when you hire and fire and all the other stuff is vital in recruiting. So he pointed that out. So I think that's an excellent point. Blackwater Bayou said, we then fired Graves 3 times and Dooley twice and can't make this up. LOL. See, that's what I'm saying. For these people that like Trey Oliver and Chennis Berry, essentially they swag retreads. No, in the context, I'm referring to Terrence Graves and Eric Dooley are the swag retreads I'm referring to. And truthfully speaking, I'm not going to lie, no disrespect to Fred McNair. I think he did a good job. at Alcorn, when he had them trending in the right direction. It would have been interesting to see what he would have done had he hired him instead of Terrence Graves. But it was more of a timing thing, like I said earlier. Even if Fred McNair runs the table, I still don't want him to be the next head coach of Southern. Now, if he would be cool with an interim tag, yeah, for a year, yeah, I would be cool with that. But flat out hiring him, no. I mean, you got to get this right. You got to get a slam dunk. I think Joel Taylor is the perfect candidate. And in terms of the identity I would want for my team, in terms of the next head coach, first of all, I want an elite level quarterback. I want an Eric Randall. I want a senior year Quincy Reshard. I want Bryant Lee. I want Dre Joseph. I want Austin Howard. I want that type of cat as quarterback. All of those guys would fit that bill. When I think elite level SWAC quarterbacks, I think of Bryant Lee. I think of Eric Randall. I think of senior year Quincy Reshard. I think of Dre Joseph. I think of Austin Howard. I think of those type of cats. I even take somebody like a Sam George, or Terrence Levy, So I think of them type of cats. So first I want an elite level quarterback. Then after that, I want just a dominant defense, like a savage defense. I'm talking about dog day defense led by Sean Wallace. May he rest in peace. The late, great Sean Wallace. That's one of the things that pissed me off with this season, too. Y'all dedicated this season to Sean Wallace, and to come out there and play like trash. I'm talking about the Southern legend. Man, come on, bro. But anyway, I'm talking about that dog day D from 93 led by Sean Wallace. I need that type of defense. Then in addition to that, I need a savage offensive line. Southern has so many good offensive lines over the years. I'm talking about a physical, aggressive offensive line that's going to punch people in the mouth and move opposing teams against their will. And then, lastly, I need elite level special teams and skill players. I'm talking about guys like, Ezra Landry, Willie Quinn, Fred Bailey, Kenyatta Sparks. Preferably like Fred Bailey, Kenyatta Sparks in terms of guys that could be elite level punt and kick returners and be good wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? I need that. I need like a Carlos Leach type kicker, Matt Bushart type punter, and I just want some good skill players, like some elite level dogs. I'm not gonna lie, Trey Holly would be the only player that I would want. If the next head coach, I'm not gonna lie, this entire team, everybody hit the portal. I'll probably, for the exception of Trey Holly, maybe like Amarian Asbury, Dylan Compton, like that'll probably be the only three players I want to keep. Everybody else hit the portal. Oh, maybe DeMarion Johnson. So maybe them four. But everybody else, all of y'all got to hit the portal as far as I'm concerned. That's my personal opinion on the matter. And then, after that point, in terms of identity at next Southern University team, in terms of the head coach, identity should have, like I said, elite level skill players. I'm talking about guys like Mike Hayes, Devin Lewis, James Vernon, Gerard Landry. I'm talking about multiple number one wide receivers, elite level running backs. Like if you could get another Trey Holly, if his charges are not dropped by the end of the season and it lingers on in the next season, hopefully they could keep Trey Holly. But like I said, more than likely he's just here for a good time, not a long time. And somebody got an NIL bag waiting for him as soon as the season over and as soon as he hit the portal. So that's the kind of identity in terms of the team. The next year Southern University's team, that's the kind of identity I would want to have. Elite level quarterback, savage, elite level aggressive defense, elite level offensive line, good special teams, great running game, great skill players. All right. And then I'm going to finish off this live stream by talking about the game coming up this weekend against FAMU, A.W. Monkey Stadium, Pete Richardson Field, 4 p.m. kickoff time. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. your boy Jay said, I heard that Tony Clayton wants a big NFL name, and he's head of the athletics chair now, so he has a lot of say. Well, like I say, I think the risk you run if you hire somebody like a Marshall Falk, who has ties to Louisiana, who's an NFL Hall of Famer, or even if you hire somebody like a Kevin Falk, the risk you run is if you don't have somebody like a T.C. Taylor, like Deion Sanders had him as the assistant head coach. If you don't have that kind of guy and he has success at Southern, when he leaves and goes to a Power 5 PWI, then what? So if you're going to hire that kind of guy, you got to have, the money in place in terms of, first you got to be able to hire him. You got to be able to hire the kind of staff he wants. And then in addition to that, you got to have the kind of money for the NIL, NIL money in place in terms of to get players. And then lastly, you got to have an excellent assistant coach who's going to do like T.C. Taylor and take with the foundation he's going to lay and be able to capitalize on it and build a house, as opposed to what James Cozy did once Willie Simmons left. So, truthfully speaking, you got to have that next guy already in place as your assistant head coach. So, I'm sure Fred McNair wouldn't want to be assistant coach again, but if you had a guy like Fred McNair in place as your assistant head coach, cool. Even if you had, a younger coach, you know what I'm saying? And I would be cool with that, you know what I'm saying? Fair said, we do not need to hire one of the rival coaches as a head coach. They will have no loyalty to SU. And like I said, I'm going to be honest, I kind of already put out there who I would want. He said, also, Blackwater Body said, also, we can scratch Kevin Sumlin. He got fired from Maryland for coaching, for catching the DUI charge. Oh, all right. Well, scratch him too then. But, I mean, his name has been on multiple lists, though, Your boy Jay said, I'll never forget Tony Clayton going on the Jaguar Journal a week after Graves got hired and absolutely destroyed him and said how he didn't want him. I don't blame him. Your boy Jay said, people also forget half of this staff we were destroying in the mid to late 2010s. They were never good. Yeah, and we done said that on so many occasions. Like, essentially, these are just swag retreads in terms of swag lifers in terms of being assistant coach. Stay focused, G. Salute to you. He said Holly is leaving soon. Yeah, I mean, I said that, but I think that the big issue with Trey Holly, the issue he's facing, I think at some point the charges are going to be dropped. And that's why I said he was going to always be at Southern for a good time, not a long time. And I'm going to keep it a buck. I think from a production standpoint, he's not the best Southern University running back I've seen. But from a talent standpoint, he's the best Southern University running back I've seen in my lifetime. Point blank, bottom line, period. I'm talking about even over Lenard Tillery, over Melvin Williams Jr., Steve Wofford, who I always thought was overrated, over Victor Ike, over Jermaine Sharp. From a talent standpoint, I think he trumps all of those guys. But we always knew he was going to be here for a year and he was going to bounce. But this is the thing about it. If they keep dragging their feet with the charges, if it's like next August and he still has those pending felony charges, is he going to stay at Southern or is he going to jump in the portal anyway? So I think that's the $1 million question when it comes to Trey Holly. Ladarius Arsenal said we need a solid QB from the boot, point blank, period. Oh, big facts. We need an elite level like Bryant Lee, Austin Howard type quarterback, a Dre Joseph type quarterback, a Eric Randall type quarterback. We need an elite level quarterback from Louisiana. I agree with you 100%. Stay focused. G said SU is a bang school. Well, you could say that at this point, but before Deion Sanders came to Jackson State, I could say the same thing with Jackson State. So if you look at historically from a blue blood standpoint, truthfully speaking, in terms of the SWAC, Southern might be the most prominent blue blood school. So Southern might be a band school at this point However, if Southern University hires the right head football coach, Southern will get back to being what it has been, a football school first. Kendrick Wicker said, we need that 03 and 04 defense. Oh, no, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that 03 defense, I don't think it was nowhere near as good as that 93 defense. 93 defense was way better than me. So maybe I would want that 03 like explosiveness, like having a senior season Quincy Richard with Alfred Ard and Chris Davis and James Vernon and Lee Dawson and them type of cats. I would want an elite level quarterback and explosive offense, but that 93 Dog Day defense, man, that's the best defense I've ever seen come through Southern. Fierce say we should cheer the team on and support them. Oh, I'm a season ticket holder. I go to every home game. So I'm getting ready to break down the game against FAMU, and I'm glad you brought that up, Fierce. Like, a lot of people talking about boycotting the game and, now coming to the last 2 home games. I'm a season ticket holder. I don't care if Southern get blown out in every game. Now, I might be pissed about it. I might leave the game early because my nephew probably ain't going to want to leave. He like to stay he like my dad. May he rest in peace. My nephew is like my dad. He won't stay to the final horn. But, of course, my dad, he won't stay to the end if they winning. But if they losing, oh, no, he was ready to go, too. So I agree with you. We should support him and cheer him on no matter what. Salute to Anthony Fogg. He said, your next coach is at Clark Atlanta. Yeah, I brought his name up, too, and I would be cool with him, too. I told me Teddy Keaton. Yeah, I would be cool with him. Your boy Jay said, SU haven't had a great passing quarterback since Austin Howard. That was almost 10 years ago. And that's the thing about it. They pointed that out in the post-game show. Pete Richardson talked about it. They were saying how Ashton Strada had, 12 completions, like 21 attempts for 81 yards, a fumble, and an interception. And they're saying a Southern University quarterback hasn't passed for over 2,600 yards since Austin Howard. And prior to that, I think the last one to throw for over 3,000 yards, I think was, if I'm not mistaken, was Bryant Lee. So the fact that one of Southern's biggest issues is having an elite level quarterback. And Austin Howard was the last good quarterback. And realistically, I think the only reason why he didn't get to win a SWAC championship was because Devontae Kincaid was at Grambling. So at the end of the day, Anthony Favre said SU won't be great until Tony Clayton step aside. People give me mixed. It's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Like, half the people I talk to, says Tony Clayton has too much say, because his financial contributions. And the other half of the people say, man, Coach Tony Clayton, he know football. He know what he's talking about. I don't know him like that, so I really can't make that type of assessment. Kendrick Wicker said, I think Trey Holly weapons charge is still pending. I think he beat the murder charge. Well, no, see that's what I'm saying. From what I understood, eventually at some point all the charges were going to be dropped. But if he still got pending felony charges, and like I said, if this linger on into the spring and into like next fall, if I was him, I wouldn't leave. But I'm sure he's gonna have somebody advising him, telling him what to do, telling him how to play it. But if he still got the charges pending, I think he should stay. But once those charges drop in the offseason here, yeah, he's gonna hit the portal. Stay focused. G said McNair play calling is not good. No, not at all. I'm not gonna even lie. His play calling is not good. I think it's better than Mark Frederick, but it ain't no huge upgrade. Your boy J said, I'm interested to see the crowd size on Saturday. Oh, I can tell you right now. You might have about between 8 to 10,000. Like that 26,000 you had Saturday, you're not gonna have that. You probably gonna have about 10,000 max. Anthony Favre said the AD is not the problem. SU plays FCS football. The moneymaker is basketball. SU is thriving in other sports. Go outside of the SWAC for coach. Keaton is the guy. Oh, like I said, I would be cool with with Keaton. I'll be cool with it. And he was saying, so the AD not the problem. I said the same thing earlier. You know, talking to people behind the scenes, they said Banks not the problem. Roman Banks is not the problem. The board is the problem. And he said SU plays FCS football. The moneymaker is basketball. No, I'm not gonna lie, I'm be honest with you. It's Southern. See, the thing I think the thing with Roman Banks is, you know, he definitely was a good basketball coach. I don't care what nobody said about him. He was a good basketball coach. I think he has an eye for basketball, and I think he does well in the small budget sports. But a couple of people been telling me, handful of people been telling me the last couple of days is the board has his hands tied. That's why I guess he really can't do what he do in football. But yeah, the board is definitely an issue. Stay focused, G said. We have no D line and O line. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. Essentially, the defensive line is Kelby Givens and three backups. The offensive line, man, it's not Southern offensive line of the past. You know what I'm saying? Your boy G said, straight scrubs in the trenches, just paper thin. Big facts. Stay focused, G said. I sold my tickets and good luck in 2025. No, I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to the last two games. Fears say all those folks who are talking about boycotting SU game need to refocus and boycott the places that need to be boycotted and support their HBCU. Big facts. I agree with you 100%, Fears. I don't care if Southern don't win a home game. I'm still going to every last one of them. I'm still going to the Classic. So at the end of the day, I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Adrian Crook. He said, "High 20 Clayton, no football, LOL." Yeah, I understand he a lawyer, but I'm talking about, you know, like I say, split down the middle. You know, a couple people say he need to get out the way, and you know, a couple people say they're like, yeah, he know football. Hell, I know a couple lawyers that know football. I'm not saying he one of them. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? But Adrian Cook, man, you're a fool, bro. Kendrick Wicker said, your boy G, it's a 70% chance of rain Saturday. That might stop the crowd. Oh no, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the stadium was full Saturday, and when it started raining, it was less than half. And then when the sun came out, the stadium was full again. So you're right, the rain definitely gonna play a factor. Adrian Cook said Mark was still calling plays and still will be calling plays. Yeah, that is terrible. I mean, the thing about it is, I understand if McNair is the co-offensive coordinator, you need him to let him call the play, and Frederick needs to translate the play to his system. But if he just flat out still calling plays, man, that's trash. Your boy Jay said, honestly, we should have saw this coming. SU recruiting class coming into the season was not good. It wasn't ranked anywhere. Graves and his staff can't relate to these kids. Yeah. SBCU Band Talk. Sup, folks? Hell Wildcat, salute to you. Adrian Cook said he a nerd. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. Like I say, I can't say one thing one way or the other because I don't know him personally, you know. You know, by all accounts out here, he a good guy. And like I say, it's split. Half the people I talk to say he know football, the other half say he don't. So I mean, I don't know. HBCU Band Talk say love the show. Keep up the good work. Man, I appreciate your HBCU Band Talk. Appreciate your family. Stay focused, G said McNair didn't call plays at Alcorn. He didn't. So, you know. But my real quick breakdown of this Saturday's game. Truthfully speaking, I'm not gonna lie. Southern schedule is weak the rest of the way, but I can't, in good faith, pick Southern to win none of these games because, truthfully speaking, this team is not that good from a talent standpoint. Like y'all pointed out, the line play up front on both sides of the ball leaves a lot to be desired. In addition to that, I mean, you got like, from a talent standpoint, the best running back I ever seen come through Southern. And Southern has the worst offense in the SWAC. I think the second the worst defense in the SWAC. I don't see Southern winning another game the rest of the season. However, from a game plan and strategy standpoint, it seems like Saturday night they took the snap count restriction off of Trey Holly, and he got more carries than he normally get. Offensively, the most talent Southern has in any. First of all, Southern struggling in all three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. However, of those three phases of the ball, offense has the most talent. So I would try to feed Trey Holly as much as possible, or as much as he would be willing to run the ball. If you know, if even if you were to go back to the 11 touches, 15 touches, whatever, those Mike Franklin touches early in the season, I think at this point, those touches should go to Amari and Asbury. And for the most part, I think offensively, you just need to establish an identity and try to get the ball to your playmakers. I'm not gonna lie, Cameron McCoy, he leaves a lot to be desired at quarterback. At this point, he a backup. Ashton Strata is a starter. He didn't like the world on fire either. He looked for too many big plays. He's extremely indecisive. So at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, the quarterback play leaves a lot to be desired. Up front on both sides of the ball, line play is not that good. The defense is not good. Special teams not good. FAMU is not a great team. In fact, FAMU is very bad. However, from a talent standpoint, I think if FAMU beat Alcorn 38 to 20, 33 to 28, FAMU beat Alcorn 33-28. Southern, the last time they scored more than 14 points was against Mississippi Valley. I don't see what Southern really could do, truthfully speaking, in any of the three phases of the game. That would be my strategy if I'm Fred McNair, but I'm not gonna lie, truthfully speaking, I think FAMU gonna win. So tomorrow night, 7:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, come over to my brother channel, Jad 11 Green, the HBCU Fanatics. We're gonna be in the building. So tomorrow, come over to my brother Jad 11 Green channel, HBCU Fanatics. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, I am less than 100 subscribers away from that magical, majestic 1,000 subscriber mark. So please, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Also, like and share. I appreciate everybody that came through showing love. I'm going to finish reading the rest of the chats. Then I'm going to shut it down. Adrian Crook said, they all good people. Anthony Fobb said, if McNair win the last few games, they will do the swag thing and give him the job. Sad. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Let me be clear. We just going to pretend. If Southern went one out, if they beat FAMU, if they beat Texas Southern and Grambling and Alcorn, if they won all of them games the rest of the season, that's what Southern would do. Southern would make Fred McNair the next head coach, which is sad to me. I'm not going to lie. No disrespect to Fred McNair. Even if he won out, I still don't want him to be the next head coach of Southern. I think you need to go in a different direction. You need fresh new blood. As bad as this regime was in terms of Terrence Graves, his coaching tenure at Southern, Fred McNair is attached to that. So we can't, I know people are going to be like, well, you can't overlook what he did at Alcorn. No, he's a part of this Terrence Graves regime. You might not can't put all the blame on him. I don't want nothing attached to Terrence Graves. So I'm not going to lie. I hate to say it. I'm going to just be honest. Maybe I would keep maybe Dylan Compton, maybe Amari and Asbury. I definitely keep Trey Holly. If Trey Holly will be willing to stay, which I doubt he will, I'll be willing to keep him. And that will be it. And maybe DeMarion Johnson. Other than that, everybody else, y'all hit the portal. Every other coach on his coaching staff, get rid of all of y'all and just start over with a fresh, clean slate. I mean, that's my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Crook said, 5, I'm cheering for losing out. I'm not gonna say I'm cheering for Adrian Crook, but I definitely don't want them to hire Fred McNair as the next head coach. I'm adamant about that. If they hired him, because let's be honest, if Fred McNair went out, they would hire him. That would be a terrible mistake, in my personal opinion. Fear said we will be 1-11, but I will still be loyal. I agree with your fears. Your boy Jay said Graves did say he hired Mark because they are friends and always wanted to work together. That dude offensive PV was mid at best. James Franklin, he said, love the show, coach. I'm a UPS driver and love to listen to your takes on my route. Man, I appreciate you, James Franklin. Salute to your family. Adrian Crook said, LOL, Fred got that special helmet for Woods. You missed the press conference, LOL. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Woods would definitely, give the offense a shot in the arm. But at this point, for his sake, I don't even think it's worth it. I think he should just get a medical raised shirt and then hit the transfer portal at the end of the season. That's my personal opinion. Stay focused, G. Say we might win one more game this season. Maybe. At this point, I'm not confident that gets done. Adrian Crook said, Jay, we play under Graves. That's our coach, not friend. Man, salute to Bryant Lee. He said offensively they struggle with understanding when to take shots down the field and when to take what the defense is giving up. Well, I'm not going to lie, Bryant Lee. If they could be as good as you were at Southern, then the offense would be a whole lot better. But truthfully speaking, I don't know if it's a evaluating talent standpoint or if it's just developing them as players. But they're not Bryant Lee. They're not Eric Randall. They're not Quincy Richard. They're not Dre Joseph. They're not a lot of great Southern University quarterbacks. So at the end of the day, it's no personal attack on our current quarterbacks. The quarterback situation is just not good, Bryant Lee, to keep it a buck, just to be honest. Your boy Jay said, well, then I hope we lose out. I don't want Fred, LOL. I'm not going to lie, I don't want him either, but I don't want to lose out either. The competitor in me wants us to win the rest of the way, but at the same token, I don't want Fred McNair to be the next head coach. Even if they say, well, hey, we would give him the interim tag for 1 year, I would be cool with that. But making him the next head coach flat out the way they made Terrence Graves the next head coach, to me, that would be insane. Keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity. I would want that. Your boy Jay said, we've been tearing Grambling apart for years. Now, if we got to lose this year for a better future, then so be it. Adrian Crook said, listen to Lee. Yeah, Brian Lee is a Southern University legend. If he said it, I believe it. He doesn't have to convince me. So I agree, Adrian Crook. If Brian Lee said it, I agree. So again, I'm gonna be on my brother Jared 11 Green channel tomorrow. HBCU Fanatics. On my channel, I focus strictly on Southern. On HBCU Fanatics, we focus on HBCU football as a whole, Southern, SWAC, MEAC, SIAC, CIAA. We focus on all of it. So come over to my brother channel, Jared 11 Green, HBCU Fanatics. I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal night. I'm definitely going to be dropping more content. So keep your eye out. And again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace and blessings. And go Jags. Yeah, they